Today we're going to be doing scenes and verbs to just work on your scenes a little bit more. So we're going to be learning about what kind of verbs they are, which ones belong in a scene, and how to employ strong verbs in a scene. So you know what scenes and sequels are and what this tempo chart is. So remember, a scene is where the story speeds up, it has a goal and a conflict, it has strong verbs, and it shows. Then the sequel is where the story slows down. So it explains and describes, it has emotion and new information, it has weak verbs, and it has tells. So in this lesson, we'll focus on the scene and the verbs that you use in the scene. So when you write your scenes, you have to use strong verbs. If you use strong verbs, then you will show and not tell, which I'm pretty sure has been brought up before at school. There are different ways to show and tell, but the most important way is to use strong verbs. If you're using strong verbs, then you're basically showing and not telling. So strong verbs is how you can show. Analytical writing, expository writing, whatever, strong verbs are always a great idea, unless you're writing a science report. Okay, so draw these words out. So pause the video here and draw these words. Some of these verbs are stronger verbs or weak verbs. The strong verbs are the ones that are easy to draw because they are easy to imagine, like sit or run or explode. Is a very weak verb because it has no picture. It has no picture, so you can't draw it. There are other weak verbs like go or went. It's a little bit stronger than is, but it's still very weak because go or went don't give you a very strong picture, just like is. If I said he went across the oval, what do you see in your mind? You don't really see anything, right? Because I just said went, going from here to there. We don't know how he did this. Maybe he threw himself onto the ground and did the freestyle through the sand. Or maybe he sprinted. We don't know because I didn't say he went across the oval. I just said went. But if you use a strong verb like sprint, then it's easier to imagine and see in your mind because sprint is a strong verb and it has a definite look. If you see someone sprinting, you know they're trying to run as fast as they can go at maximum speed. If you sprint, there's only a few reasons why you would do this. Number one, you're trying to get away from something. Or number two, you're trying to catch something. Or it's a sporting event. So these are the times that you would sprint. So if you use the word sprint in a sentence, we would know how he sprinted across the oval and what that looks like, and we also have a clue why. That's why you should use strong verbs everywhere, even in your persuasive, because it makes a very clear picture in your reader's mind. The weaker the verbs, the weaker the picture. So, a strong verb is a specific descriptive verb used in writing. Weak verbs tell, strong verbs show. Therefore, strong verbs should be used in your scenes where you show. So here are some strong verbs: sparkle, tickle, thrill, explode, catapult, polish, shine, brighten, scour. So these are all words that have a look to them. So when you say them out loud, you can imagine someone doing it or something doing it. So here we have a scene that has weak verbs, and on the right we have the same scene, but now it has really strong verbs. So in this weak scene here, we have Yelena was distracted and couldn't focus on her lessons. Marin and Janko are engaged in a rowdy duel, but her friend Ari knew something wasn't right, so he asked her what was going on. She asked him if he thought the training was a waste of her time, and he gave her a pep talk. Yelena worked through some doubts that training was her way of avoiding the real problem. She has a small epiphany about her situation and began to form a plan in her mind. Yelena asked Ari if he knew how to pick locks. He suggested that she talk to Janko. They resumed their lesson. So it has a variety of verbs here, like was, began, suggested, but these aren't really verbs that paint a really clear picture in your mind. It's too vague. On the right side is what your scene should be looking like, with your strong verbs. Let's read it. Pay attention, Ari snapped. He jabbed me in the stomach with a wooden knife. You're dead. That's the fourth time today. What's the matter? Lack of sleep, I said. Sorry. Ari gestured me to the bench along the wall. We sat down and silently watched Marin and Jenko engage in a friendly bow match on the far side of the storeroom. Jenko's speed had overpowered Marin's skill, and she was on the retreat, backing into a corner. She's tall and thin, but she's not going to win, Janko sang. His words aimed to infuriate her, a tactic that had worked before. Too often, Marin's anger caused her to make critical mistakes, but this time she remained calm. She planted the end of her bow between his feet, which trapped his weapon close to his body. Then she flipped over his head, landed behind him, grabbed him around the neck until he conceded. So here you have a really clear picture of what's going on in the story. You can see Ari's conversation with the narrator, and then we see the fight happening right here. That's really, really important to use strong verbs like flipped, trapped, planted, infuriate, that kind of thing in your writing so the reader knows exactly what's going on. Okay. So we want to see this happening, not this. Your scene should have many strong verbs, no telling verbs, such as is, am, are, was, were, been, and be. Those are to be verbs, and they're not great because you can't see them happening right in front of you. Instead of she is tired, you could say tears poured down her cheeks.